Hey, hello everyone. Our next topic is going to be mental health in the LGBTQIA plus community. And to begin that large acronym, we're going to go through each letter, just in case no one knows what they mean. Going in order, it's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and then it's queer / questioning for the Q, it can be one or the other. I is for intersex, and A is the asexual spectrum. There are more in the plus, but we won't get into those just today.
Before we start, we have a new guest.
The one and only.
Hello guys, you guys know who I am. So wellbeing teacher, deputy director and safeguarding lead. So I'm happy to join you guys on this theme of your podcast.
Thank you for joining us, Mimi.
Thank you for having me.
To start as like a broad question for the table, I suppose, do you feel misunderstood as someone in the community?
Okay, so not me personally, but my friend, he's a man and he's gay, and he thinks he's very misunderstood because, you know, there's often a stereotype of if you're a man and you're gay, you're more feminine and you're more like flamboyant, and he feels very misunderstood by that because it's like, no, he's still very masculine, but like he feels like being gay is kind of like taking over his identity in a sense, like the stereotypes that come with being gay is taking over his actual identity, and he feels very misunderstood in that sense because it's like, that's a part of him and that's who he is. At the same time, he doesn't want it to take over like his,
like who he is?
Yeah, the way people perceive him, basically.
I think there's a lot of misconceptions about each of the identities and everything. Like even with the lesbians, like, oh, you want to be a man, you haven't found the right man yet, but it's not about that.
I think from a lot of my friends who may be identifying as bisexual, they often get told they're greedy and they're selfish. And it's absolutely not the case for them. It's just that they don't, necessarily see gender as that.
Or that they want to cheat or anything, but that's not it.
Yeah.
Or like a lot of the time, if someone who's bisexual is in I lost my words. Sorry, I've been distracted this entire question by the fact that the mic is now taller.
Heteronormative.
Yes. If say a bisexual woman is in a relationship with a guy, you're gonna hear the comments from people going, oh well, finally you're just straight again, you figured it out, and it's like, well,
I think figured out is crazy.
Definitely.
And as well, I think one of my mum's closest friends, she was heterosexual her whole life. And then she just so happened to fall in love with a soul, and this soul was a woman. Right. So lots of people kind of questioned her and said, I didn't know you were bisexual, I didn't know you were lesbian. And she's just like, I wasn't, I just fell in love with a soul, and that soul just so happened to be someone who identifies as female. So yeah, I think a lot of people like to put labels on the LGBTQIA plus community, and I think that can impact their mental health as well.
Definitely.
I think that's a very good reason as to, so one of the quote-unquote labels is unlabeled, which a lot of people, it was brought in for that specific reason, for people who don't know which letter they fall under or don't want to give themselves a letter. It was brought in so that they can still be a part of the community in that way, but a lot of people started using it as a label, and now it's kind of...
Yeah, it kind of ruined the whole point of it.
I'm unlabeled. I have an unlabeled flag up in my room. I still have it as the... I know vaguely which letters I fall under, but that doesn't mean that that's what I want to shout. And it also means, because I struggle with imposter syndrome a lot, so throughout my entire journey it was like, oh, I'm bi, oh, I'm pan, oh, I'm aromantic, oh, I'm not aromantic.
Yeah.
What the hell am I? And that really affects you because you've come out like 5 times.
I think there's definitely sorry, continue.
It's like every single time it's like, is this actually the one that you identify with now? And then people buy all of the merchandise, and then you have like a bi flag that you're just like, well, what do I do with this now? And then I found unlabeled, and I was like, yes, please, because it allows me to do that searching and to do that figuring out which letters I might actually fit under without having to put that down and then sit back and go, but what if I'm wrong?
Exactly. I think there's definitely a feeling of having to constrict yourself to a certain identity or put yourself in a box to a specific mindset, like I can only like this gender, or I can only prefer this thing, and that's it. But it's not, because it's a spectrum. It's fluid. You can change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's becoming more apparent nowadays as well. I think there's definitely a new age of society coming really, and just what people are aware of, and trying to move away from just those labels where people are just put into boxes.
It's black and white.
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of grey, and people don't always understand that. So yeah, I think it's good. I think we're moving in the right direction when it comes to awareness and acceptance as well of the LGBTQIS plus community. But there's also still a lot of work to be done, I think.
I think it's funny that society is becoming more aware when society is the one that like kind of set those black and white boxes in like man and woman in place as like a social construct between gender and everything. So it's funny that they're the ones that are having to become more aware, and like they kind of force that upon the community in a way.
Yeah,
it's ironic.
Absolutely.
Also, I want to make a point that there's a lot of, as you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of stereotypes within the community. One that I personally struggle with as a transmasculine person is obviously, a lot of people expect you to, if you're transmas, you have to only wear masculine clothing. You have to cut your hair short. You have to try and deepen your voice. You have to wear a binder all the time, or you're not. If you don't pass, then you're not accepted.
Right. And the criteria.
As someone who, throughout my journey, actually found that me having longer hair accentuates the masculine features in my face, and as someone who has severe breathing problems from both asthma, different physical disabilities, and the fact that I have scoliosis, so one of my rib cages is quite literally further ahead than the other one. I can't wear a binder all the time, especially not as a drama student, because I would do some serious damage to myself. And so I don't a lot of the time, and you do get those questions, and it's like, well, no.
It's true.
Breaking that stigma as well, and the expectations that people put on you, I suppose. Interesting. What would you say is an impact, I suppose? I think a lot of my friends struggle most about their sexual orientation and identity, about telling people around them, coming out, I suppose. And I think that sort of pressure of coming out, that fear of that response of coming out, has actually really pushed their mental health to a really, really low point. Would you guys have any sort of advice for someone who might be in that current position where they feel like they really want to be honest with their friends and family about who they are and live free and, be quite proud about who they are, but they're kind of torn between a rock and a hard place because they know that actually if I do say this, then I have that risk of losing everyone that I care about, and then that could obviously plummet mental health and stuff like that. So did you guys have any sort of advice for someone who might be in that situation?
I think if you are considering coming out to someone or anyone, you should definitely do it when you're only safe and ready to. Because if you were to come out in an unsafe environment, or like an environment where they would treat you differently, negatively, you wouldn't get the right support or the right acceptance that you might need. So to come out, I think definitely, go somewhere safe, feel safe, choose people that you trust, and like don't force yourself to come out, because like it won't run out. There's no time limit for you to come out. You won't stop being gay, or maybe you will. I can't really speak on that, but there's no expiration date to come out, so just do it whenever you're good and ready.
You gotta remember, you also don't owe anyone
exactly
coming out to them. You if you don't want to, then you don't have to. If they've made assumptions about you, that's on them, really. Because but also, as someone who hasn't ever really come out, I've seen some of my brother struggle with it. A lot of people say, if you're worried specifically about how the people around you are going to react, bring something up. Bring it up as, well, my friend, or, well, I saw this online about this group.
Bring
their reaction and response to that topic will tell you, 1, if they're a safe person to come out to, 2, if you want to come out to them, and 3, really, if you want to keep them as a friend. Because, to be completely honest, if I didn't feel safe, if I didn't think that I felt safe enough around someone to come out to them and discuss stuff like this with them, I wouldn't want to associate with them anyway. Which is why I haven't had to a lot of the time, because the groups that I surround myself with are the groups where it's kind of, you kind of assume that it being the straight one is actually the rarity. It's like talking about LGBT stuff or neurodivergent stuff, and there's someone sat over there like, oh yeah, well, I don't understand, and it's like, you're straight. I'm sorry, I assumed that you weren't. And it's like a turnaround, and those are really safe environments. So if you're able to get into that group or that environment, that's a good place to be in.
I think allyship as well is quite important. So having those maybe heterosexual or straight friends that actually are your friends, and they will support you and they do make you feel safe. And so I think you're right, again, you don't have to feel pressured or forced to come out. It's absolutely your personal decision if it's safe to do so. But yeah, I know it's something that a lot of people will struggle with, and it does impact their mental health. On that note, do you feel like there's any good support organisations available to people who come from the LGBTQIA+ community?
I haven't personally reached out to any of the support groups, but I know that they exist and they're there if I ever did need that support or if I wanted to go to them for anything.
My brother has actually been with ELOP, which is a support group that does therapy stuff, just advice stuff, just general sessions, and he's been with them for about a year now. And compared to some of the other like support organizations that you hear about and you find out about, they've actually been like really good. Like they do in-person sessions, they do online sessions, it's all to your comfort, and it's a really good space to look into if you want support on that.
And with that as well, ELOP, I know they're quite local, so I know they're in the sort of Warden Forest vicinity, but they also offer online meetups for people who maybe can't get to the actual building. So they've made it quite accessible and quite inclusive as well, ELOP. So that's always a good support organisation. I always refer my students to them as well.
Yeah, well, because they're local, because I live locally, but my brother still attends the online meetings because he struggles, because he's autistic, he struggles going to the in-person meetings, so he attends the ones online.
Fantastic. It's good that these spaces exist because we need definitely more of them, absolutely.
I just also wanted to add on the topic before, like advice about coming out. So my friend came out to me like last year, and I was very I was very supportive, but I was also like curious as to like why he would come out to me as well. And he said, well, he's decided that if he's gonna come out and he's gonna be like unapologetically his truest self, and if somebody has a problem with that, it's good for him to realize that that's somebody that they should cut out of their life now. Like he only wants people who are going to be supportive around him, and it's going to be like not a test, but this is going to like prove and show to him like who is with him because of him basically.
Yeah. And
also the way he came up to his parents as well, is like he didn't do it together. He like sat them like down like by themselves as well, because he felt like if it was in a group, or if it was like a bunch of people together, they choose opportunities and like feedback off of each other to like attack him. But they're also surprisingly like very supportive, even though they're also Christians as well, and they're actually very supportive of him. And they were just like, love is love, and even in the Bible, like Jesus says like love thy neighbor, and they were just really supportive. And I thought that would be good advice to like, if anybody's going to like be rude to you or unsupportive, that's not somebody that you would want in your life regardless, that's just not a good person. So that's a good opportunity to remove them from your life.
Yeah. I'm really pleased that they actually had a good response to that.
Yeah.
Because I hear loads of, not horror stories, but bad experiences where religion plays a part, and the family maybe don't accept or agree with that person's sort of sexual orientation. So that's actually really nice for me to hear.
Yeah.
It's really refreshing and really progressive. So thank you for sharing.
No problem.
Any other points that you need to discuss for this one?
Well, on the topic of religion and that pertaining to the LGBT community and coming out. So I come from two Christian families, but I wasn't necessarily raised as a Christian because my mom stopped being a Christian. I think maybe either when my brother was born or when my sibling was born. Yeah, one of the two. So I was raised with the books and going to church and in interacting with all of these people and all of that, but there was never the pressure that you hear a lot of people talk about. But there was a lot of that kind of pressure from my mum's parents, because you know she'd cut it off, and so they were worried about then us. And so you know you'd get a lot of things where it would be like, oh, we'd mentioned that we just kind of fell out of it, and we'd get like alongside all of your Christmas and all birthday presents, you'd get a book about Christianity. Yeah, so when because again, I've never been the first, despite being the eldest. My brother's always been the one who's taken that opportunity and actually, gone, okay, this is who I am. Now you know, please respect it. And then I just kind of silently wave from the back and like, yeah. And he, my dad's so the family is again Christian. He's Christian, but they've always been, the more quote unquote supportive ones. Like your friend's parents, they don't care. But it's just like, oh yeah, cool. And that's my dad's attitude, and that was my grandparents' attitude about most things. So he didn't really focus on my dad's parents as much as he did my mom's parents, because we had that constant pressure from that religious thing specifically. And what that meant then was that he kind of forgot that he needed to do the same things with my dad's parents, which means now he's actually getting a lot more from my dad's parents than my mom's parents, because I think genuinely all of us thought that they were going to have a much more intense reaction. And my mom's biological dad still, but he's always been the kind of person that, like if you cut your hair short as a female, he'll like go,
not approved.
He wouldn't sell the house to an Asian family because he wanted to be considerate to the neighbours.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That kind of person. So but we only meet him like twice a year. So we don't really care about that bit, but because there was the pressure then from my mum's mum and stepdad, it was like, okay, we're going to focus on these guys because we see them more regularly. And so we expected their reaction to kind of be similar, and then it wasn't. They were kind of like, okay, we don't understand, but can you explain it to us? And so then it was a lot of my mum explaining, because my brother kind of went, I expected to be on the defence, I don't know what to say now.
I think explaining is definitely like a huge part of it, because I think when they have a bad reaction to you coming out, it's not really like they just hate you. Maybe they just don't understand what you're trying to say, like what you're experiencing or what you are. Yeah. It's rather like fear of the unknown rather than I just hate you outright.
And exactly. Willingness to learn as well. Like tell us, explain it to us. I don't know, I'm a bit ignorant, but let me know. And I think that's a big thing for a lot of people. Just that having that willingness to learn, rather than just actually no, don't talk to me about that. I don't understand. Don't mention that again.
That's a child, like.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, it's a lot to do with the stereotypes, because my brother came out initially as non-binary and then came out again as transmasculine. And when he was coming out as non-binary, a lot of the questions were, how do you use they them pronouns?
I think that's a big question that everyone asks.
What does it mean? Like, how do you not fit into either gender? And then he went to especially because my brother's always, he'll wear skirts, he'll wear dresses, he'll do all of these things that are traditionally feminine because he enjoys it. He feels comfortable in it sometimes. He's leaned a lot more out of it again when he found out that transmasculine actually felt more comfortable for him, but he still owns those things and he still does wear them occasionally. And I feel like that was a lot of what my grandma had the confusion about, because she was like, well, but he's always dressed up as these things, and he's always painted his nails and done makeup, and I don't understand. And like she's told my mum that maybe she would understand it a bit more if it had been me, to which my mum then went, well, funny story, because I haven't worn a dress since maybe the age of 5. I haven't worn a skirt since maybe the age of 6. because they're just, they're just unconventional. You can't do a lot of things in them, and I was a very, very active kid. You know, I was doing handstands, I was learning how to cartwheel, I was doing rock climbing, and skirts and dresses are very uncomfortable for those kind of activities.